Welcome back to the Straight No Chaser podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Bishop, and I thank you for joining today's show, right? Because today we're going to talk about life, but we're going to have some fun while we do it. See, I don't know which one of you needs to hear this, but I knew I needed to hear something like this, which was one of the reasons why I was going to do this episode, right? Because life been out here swinging like it's trying to win a damn championship, right? Everything's expensive. Rent, mortgage, groceries, cars, car insurance, life insurance, health insurance. It doesn't really matter. The news can be depressing. People still acting like they're raised under rocks, and yet you're still here, right? You're still standing. You're still laughing. You're still doing your best to make it do what it do, in spite of your circumstances and anything happening in your life, right? And I wanted to do like a feel good episode today because we got enough bad news out there. I wanted to do something that was no chaos, no drama, no issues, right? Just a reminder that even when life gets disrespectful, we still out here winning in ways we don't always notice. That's what I need you to understand. So grab your drink. I want you to get comfortable, sit back, and let's talk about how we're surviving this circus. We're thriving anyway, and we're finding joy even in the middle of pure D nonsense. All right. So pull up your chair and let's get it and let's go. All right. Now, for me, consistently, especially lately, life just been lifing, right? Life been lifing this week. Um, I'll give you a great example of it, right? You know, all these things happening. Like I lost my job. I'm struggling to figure out my way and find my way in all of this shit that's happening around us right now. And I get in my car one day, my truck, and I go to drive off, and my check engine light comes on. And I'm like, bitch, like, really? Really? The check engine light. Now is not the time for any of this chaos, right? So I'm dealing with all of that, and I'm like, damn. And to see all this shit, now I'm gonna have to get my car fixed. Which, of course, car maintenance is costing a lot of money these days, right? So I'm instantly taking my mind to all of the things that, or how much it may cost, or all of the things that may have to be done, right? And then as I, wrap my mind around all of it, and I'm this close to knowing what I need to do and having connects and all this other shit, the light goes off. The light goes off because life be lifing. You understand? Life just be doing that. It'll play games with you like that. You know. Another thing that happened to me. I love to bake bread. I was baking bread, baked a wonderful loaf of bread. Didn't store it properly. The next day, it was heavy as the tablets that Moses carried down the damn mountain. I was like, come on, man. Life be lifing. Life be lifing. It just is what it is. And we go through a series of struggles and tough times in our lives. But at the end of it all, you find some light, some ray, something that you can look to give you a sense of hope. Because sometimes we need it, you know? And people don't want to say that, but there are times you need to feel hopeful instead of hopeless. Understand there's always another day to get it right as long as you got another day. Look, my stomach over here trying to be another member of this podcast and speak on the mic. No, you cannot. And I had breakfast. Go figure. You know, some of the struggles another struggle, I hide money from myself because life be lifing. And I call myself putting up money. I'm going to put it up so I don't spend it on things I don't need to spend it on, blah, 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 blah. But then when it's time to find said money, I'm sitting there like, really? Why is this money in here like Carmen Sandiego? Expose yourself. Like, come on. Give me my shmoney. Give me my shmoney. Or also, I ran into a situation this week where somebody was acting all unseasoned. You black and you act like you don't know what seasonings are. And when I say they weren't even cooking, it was just how they were behaving. I'm like, why are you acting this way? You acting like you don't know how to season shit. You acting like you don't know nothing about the secret sauce. Stop it. This week has been life, nothing but life in, and it's tried to do nothing but test me every step of the way, right? But one of the things that I hold on to dear and that I never lose sight of is I don't have to give in to difficulties. And if anything, sometimes when your life is lifing, that is the moment when you need to lean into that shit, laugh in the face of adversity, but you keep going. You don't stop going, you know? Because the thing that we have to always remember, because I know sometimes we get so caught up in our own struggles that we think struggling only happens to us. I want to tell you the truth. Everybody got something going on. Even if they don't mention it to you, they got something. Because everybody doesn't live their life out loud where they want everybody to know their business at every juncture. Everybody don't live like that. I need you to understand. Some people, I'm one of those people that believe in playing it close to the chest. I don't really make a whole lot of loud announcements and declarations about how I live my life. I just live it. I just live it. And that's real talk. I just live it. Because once you just lean into living your life and loving your life for what it is, even the little things, or sometimes the big things, when they try to stand in the way of your progress or your life condition of feeling good about your life and who you are, you got to learn to laugh in the face of it. But you keep going. You keep going. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I've been coaching her on some social media stuff. And as we were talking, only thing she kept commenting on was all the ways she was inadequate. And I made it my business. Let's talk about the successes that you've had. Because it's a mindset thing. Because if you stay focused on what you don't have, you'll just get more of what you don't have. When you focus on what you do have, what you do possess, you'll get more of that. And you'll be able to multiply on that. Real stuff. You'll be able to multiply on that. That's why you got to celebrate your small wins, no matter how small they are. Celebrate that shit. Celebrate it. It's to your benefit to always celebrate a small win, because no win is too small that you shouldn't celebrate the effort and the consistency that it took for you to accomplish that thing. Okay? There's also a win when you get out of bed in the morning, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when you got to go to places you don't want to be. But you got up, you showed up, you did what you were supposed to do. That is important. Contrary to what the machine wants you to believe, it's important that you got up, you got out of bed, and you showed out on life. That's what we have to, that's what I remind myself to do. Because there are times that I'm not excited about doing things. There are times that I don't want to do things. What I got to do is lean into the things that do excite me and copy and paste it over to the things that I'm not very excited about, but I can still get them done. It's important to do that, because when you have a mindset like that, you start to show up for yourself even when you're tired. Even when you're tired, you still show up for you. Yep. Because your progress is important to you. Your abilities, your focus, the ability to make things happen in your life, that's important for you. That's important for you. So you need to show up for yourself, even when you think it ain't worth it. Because what do I always tell you guys? You teach people how to treat you. Well, if you're not clear about it, they won't be either. What they will learn is what they can do to you. Because if you're not strong enough to speak up for yourself, that'll be anything. That's why also when it comes to life, you got to hang on to your boundaries. Real talk, you got to hang on to them. Boundaries are a good thing. I find that a lot of people are afraid of boundaries, you know, but you shouldn't be. And the only people who don't like you enforcing your boundaries are people who don't respect you anyway. That's why it's important to surround yourself with people who are respectful, who are loving, who care about you, who want the best for you. They don't just say they do, they actually want it. They actually want it. They actually want it. That's growth. When you realize that you love yourself enough to implement boundaries and not apologize. Not apologize. Because that, honestly, people love it more when you got boundaries. They want to treat you better than you're choosing to treat yourself. However, if you allow those people to take advantage of you and treat you any type of way, they'll do that too. Real talk. They'll do that too. Because you're allowing it. So why not? Why not? You got to learn to rest without feeling guilty. I remember I used to feel guilty about resting because I was taught, or rather indoctrinated, to believe that the harder I worked, the more stressed I was. All of those things meant I was being productive, meant I was doing the right thing. That's not what that means. It just means you're stressed. Yep, that's what it means. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be better off for it. Y'all got to know the difference, because for a lot of us, we have been indoctrinated. We've been indoctrinated to think in a certain way, to act in a certain way. Not because somebody was trying to, not because our parents or whomever taught us this was trying to be nefarious. It was because that's what they knew. They taught us what they knew. I had to learn to rest without guilt. I had to make it my business. That's why sometimes I think about, what do I do now that the old me wouldn't have handled as well? Resting. Hands down resting. Because I used to feel guilty for not constantly moving and shaking. The thought process I had was, I'm only supposed to lay down when it's time for bed and go to sleep. Any other time, I could still be awake, because why the fuck not? But that's not true. You do yourself a disservice trying to burn the candle at both ends. Real talk. Trying to burn the candle at both ends. Make yourself a priority. I learned to do that. I learned to make myself a priority, because nobody's going to make me a priority but me. I had to learn to do that. So I'm going to ask you this week, because I know some of you are listening to this. Like I told you about some of my small wins earlier this week, things that, I got done already. Let me ask you, what's a win that you had this week that you almost dismissed? I know for me it was, I almost dismissed my ability to be an effective communicator because I didn't get the result that I wanted on something. Always assuming it was me. No, it was how that individual received the information that I provided. I didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. That doesn't mean I lack communication. That doesn't mean I lack communication. I told someone what they wanted, and I guess you could also say needed to hear. Now, I know it's rough out here. I know. Listen, 2025 has had its foot on my neck the entire. I would say it was good for me like the first 2 weeks of January, and then life has had its foot on my neck ever since. But you know what I did? I kept going. And that's what I'm going to tell you. In spite of everything that's happening, you keep going. I'm telling you, keep going because there is some type of blessing or something good on the other side of that suffering. Don't don't you be so focused on the suffering that you don't get to the other side of it, because sometimes we get so caught up in it, you know? I don't want you to be focused on the struggle. I want you to be focused on your perseverance. The fact that in spite of no matter what's happening around you, you're not a quitter. You keep going. I think sometimes we forget about that stuff. I really do. Because I think sometimes as individuals, we can get so focused and caught up in our suffering that we glamorize it. We make suffering seem like some type of rite of passage for us. That if we haven't struggled, maybe we don't deserve the blessings that we have. I had to reprogram myself to get away from that type of thought process. Real talk, because it's toxic. It's toxic because if you think that the only way for you to have good things happen to you or great successes in your life always have to be contributed to some type of suffering. Well, guess what? If you ain't suffering by proxy, you're going to make yourself suffer because you think you're going to get to the blessing on the other side. I know, I've been there, I've done it. That's why I'm telling you, stay away from that shit. You're wasting time. Don't do it. You're wasting time. Don't do it. You deserve more than that. Because what you need to understand is trying again when you failed at something is another form of victory. It is. Because you could have quit. You could have said, life is life and I give up on this shit. But you didn't. You did the opposite. You said, nope, I don't care how hard life gonna life on me. I'm still here. I ain't going nowhere. That's what you said. That's what you said. And that's why you can't stay focused on your struggle. You've got to stay focused on how much you've persevered through no matter whatever else has happened. And it's also why you got to learn the whole concept of failing up. See, you can never succeed if you're not willing to fail. And I'm one of those people, I will fail. Now, I'm going to tell you about something that I've been struggling with lately, right? So, I've been working on this course that I've been working on to help folks, but I've been dragging my feet on it. And I was having a conversation with myself yesterday because I do that. I have conversations with myself. You should do it too. Where I said, why are you dragging your feet on this? Because I've done tons of courseware. I used to get paid. I used to work jobs where my job was to create courseware. So I know how to make courses. That's a non-starter. That's not hard to do. But I said to myself, but why is this taking me so long? And I thought about it, I said, you know why? I know why. Fear of rejection, fear of once it's all done, nobody will care or like it. So I had a fear of failing, fear of trying. Nah, that shit, it will paralyze you. When you fail, you learn lessons. Failure is an opportunity to learn a new lesson. Learn it. Execute on that new lesson. What's the worst that can happen? You fail. And failing means you're learning. That's what that means. Because, see, I learned consistency and effort, they matter way more than perfection. When I first started doing social media, like really trying to do social media, it was like at the December of 2024 was really when I really said, I'm really going to do this. That's when I really said that. And in the beginning, I thought everything had to be perfect. I got to have perfect lighting and perfect clothing and perfect skin and perfect this. It's none of that shit. You know, the people who succeed the most at content creation, people who are consistent and who put in the effort. Nobody cares about perfection because nobody's perfect. And there ain't too many people who want to watch somebody online who's perfect, because ain't nobody got time trying to compare their lives to somebody else that lives a perfect life. That will drive you insane. It ain't worth it. But me being consistent, me putting in consistent effort since December of 2024. We're now in, what is it now? November of 2025, right? I had a little over 5,000 followers in December of 2024. I am now at over 120,000. Why? Because I'm consistent. I consistently put in the effort. That's it. I'm not special though. Well, I am special. But not in that way of that's why I was able to produce those results in content. No, it's consistency. Because see, the people who succeed and who persevere through this thing called life when it's lifing are the people who refuse to give up. See, for a lot of us, we give up just before the blessing, we give up. We just throw our, fuck it, I'm done with this. We just throw our hands up and give up. That is not the mindset to have. You can't think like that and expect to have any progress, success, or anything grand for your life to happen. You can't expect it. You can't expect it because you already don't believe it yourself. Real talk. See, when you start, I'm going to tell you a story about how I judge myself too hard, right? I love to write too. I love writing. And I'm one of those people, I'll write stuff and just forget all about it. I'll just write it and put it to the side. I don't write it to share with anybody. None of that. I literally just write it because I had something creative in me and I go and write. But I never think it's good enough to share with anybody, right? Imagine my shock when I was reading something that I found on my computer. It was very, very old. And I found out I wrote it from scratch. Imagine what that made me feel. I felt like, oh my God, you wrote this. And you be thinking that you can't do these things. You're a lot more talented than you think you are. Sometimes you got to have those conversations with yourself. Stop judging yourself too hard. I'm going to tell you something. When you judge yourself really, really hard and make it hard for yourself to move forward, what you're saying to yourself is when you do that extra judgy stuff, I don't trust myself. Next time you start getting all extra judgy on yourself, have that thought. I don't trust myself. Why don't I trust myself? Get to the core of it. Because there's something there. There's a reason why you feel the way you feel. You just got to get to the core of it. That's all. You just have to get to the core of it. And once you figure out what that it is, then you can start to redirect and change the course of your life. But you can't change the course of your life if you aren't willing to have honest conversations with yourself about why you do the things you do. Real shit. You got to learn how to do things. You do the things that you do. Now, I know I have this thing myself about wanting to do it all myself, right? I don't need nobody. I can do it all myself. That ain't true all the time. Sometimes you need a community. Sometimes you need other people, you know? And for me, I have created a community, not just for me, but for everybody that's a part of that community, where at any moment I can go to that community and learn so much, be connected in so many ways, you know? Because it changes, again, how you see yourself and how you see the world. Some days I don't want to do social media. And then on those days when I don't want to do it, I realize the reason why I don't want to is because a lot of times I don't want that feeling or that moment to end. You know, when I do a live event or when I do something on my Patreon or when I'm interacting with someone else in the community on their own stuff, I feel like it's a moment that I never wanted to be over. And you get to that point when you find people that get it. When you find your tribe, something clicks. Something clicks. Because when you got a real community, it can carry you when your battery is low. So when life is lifing, you got a community to lean on. I'm telling y'all, that community don't even always have to be in person. You can build these connections online too. Real talk. A lot of the people that I talk to the most are people I've never met in person. For some of them, I don't even know what they look like because it's not important to me. That isn't important. You know what is important? The community. Because life be life in. So anywhere where you can get that support and understanding is always helpful. Is always helpful. I'm going to remind you of something that I think it's important for you to hear. Because when life is lifing, it can steal a lot of our joy and a lot of our happiness. But I need you to understand something. Joy is resistance. Okay? Joy is survival. You need to understand that. Joy is something you can cultivate yourself. You don't have to get it from somebody else. You can make joy happen in your own life. You don't have to wait for it. Right now, what's bringing me joy, the ability to bake bread. I love trying out new recipes, new movies I haven't seen before. All of those things bring me joy. Hanging out with people that I love and care about, that stuff brings me joy. Find what brings you joy and lean into it on purpose. On purpose. Because when you lean into that joy, your life is different. When you choose your happiness on purpose, everything changes. But you have to make that choice. Nobody's going to make it for you because life is always going to do what life does. The question is, what are you going to do to respond to that when it happens? Real shit. What are you going to do to respond to it when it actually happens? Because I know for me, if it requires me to take a moment to myself and do some self-care, maybe I need to do some journaling, maybe talk to a friend, whatever it is I need to do, I'm going to know what it is so I can do it and change my perspective and my life. Y'all, I thank you for joining me in today's episode. I really do. Because life be lifing. You know what I'm saying? Life be lifing. And I don't think a lot of times we're honest about it. I don't think we're honest about it because life be lifing, but you still winning. Boom. You're still winning. It's all about perspective and how you see it. And I hope this episode reminded you of one specific thing, that no matter what life throws at you, you're still stronger than you think. You absolutely positively are stronger than you think. You're more resilient than you know. And you're more blessed than you even realize yourself. You're not making it by accident. Nothing that's happening in your life is by accident. It's intentional choices that you have made. You're making it because deep down inside, somewhere you decided, I'm not giving up on me. And that is extremely powerful, to not give up on yourself. You keep choosing you. You keep finding joy in little things. You keep celebrating your small wins. That stuff's important. And keep remembering that as long as you wake up and decide to keep going, baby, you already won because you didn't give up. You didn't give up. You already won. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode made you smile, made you think, or made you feel a little lighter, right? Share it with somebody who needs it. share it with somebody who needs it. And I will see you next time on the Straight No Chaser podcast. And I'm going to end this podcast the way I end all podcasts. Listen, don't let nobody live rent-free in your head, people. Don't feed any trolls. And you can accomplish anything you put your mind to as long as you stay consistent. Peace.